and we're not here to throw stones at Mark's particular proposal. I just want to be very clear about that. What we are concerned about is having an open and a very transparent process for considering development. And we haven't gotten any answers, and we're going to continue. I personally will continue to reach out to the Redevelopment Authority and the Councilwoman's office, whoever I can, to try and get a sit-down meeting, working session, to kind of talk about brass tacks and what does this really look like to vet out proposals. So we want to figure out what would be the mechanism for this, and then we want to, ideally, I'm an architect. Straightforward about this. So in my world, we always are putting in proposals, plans, and it's called a request for proposal process.
Should have been an RFP before this.
So we're going to start. There's other people putting hands in there. Okay. So there's other people hands there.
Ward is the only one who submitted a proposal of what he would like, his vision and all. So why is it that y'all have put in a proposal to say what your vision is like?
Well, there's been these two proposals actually put into the PRA and the city. So there's Mark's proposal, and then what Ryan's speaking to is Greensgrove. Greensgrove is a Philadelphia-based garden center based out of the Fishtown area. And they're the ones that's actually come and expressed an interest about putting a second.
One, but I'm saying is though, overall, they look at the economic, what is the economic impact of the community? I mean, what you think personally and what you like personally doesn't mean anything to those schools in the town. No, they care less. At the end of the day, it's about what brings what jobs, money, property values, all this in the account. You can go in there with all that emotionalism and you're going to lose out because they're going to say, this is what we're going to build. It's going to bring this much money to the community. This is a tax base here. This, that, and the other. Now, you can play the blame game all you want, and somebody going to go in there with a beautiful set of proposals and blueprints, and it's going to go through. It's whose food you eat, it's whose song you sing. You can sit around and play like a daisy and crazy, and at the end of the day, you're going to get nothing. If you don't have no money, then you get what you get. If you have money, then you go to the community and say, look, what is it we can work out? You can't come to a person and say, put something crazy there that he's not going to get a return on his money. Why do you think people want to buy those parcels?
I
This is
disagree
the
with
right.
you.
Well, maybe you got a turn. You do stuff like that. I'm saying basically overall, people invest their money to get up to the interest rate.
Wait a minute. One person at a time.
If I can,
This is the first time. Now, I've heard about BARC, because I'm a long-time resident for 30 years. So I know about BARC, I know about MARC, I know about CPN, and I know that the BARC plan has been in since before the wellness centers were developed. And in fact, this plan that you're talking about was the overall plan, and only the wellness center was developed and the parking lot because the folks who own those parcels that you may now own would not sell their land. And we're holding it in order to get a lot of money, which nobody was going to pay them a lot of money at that time. So the BARC plan is not new. It's been around for over 20 years, 15 years or whatever like that. So, but it's important for us to kind of understand what the BARC plan is. Is there going to be an expansion of the wellness center? Are there going to be activities for the community, to go in and use that wellness center? I think they had a gym, and the members of the community go in and take a membership and use the gym. I mean, these are questions that need to be asked. But aside from that, and I have to hear about this by accident and a flyer in my door. Prior to that, and this, I never heard of any of this, except for the BARC, which is a long time ago, all right? Never. So I want to know, was there a survey done of the immediate community about anybody's interest of what would be beneficial for the immediate community? We can talk about people coming up along the corridor, that's fine. But you have, immediate community who are more likely to provide that immediate traffic to whatever you're trying to develop. I never heard about some sort of garden center, but that's fine, whatever. But again, I think that we need to understand all of the plans, and the gentleman's right. We need to see all the plans in front of us. I don't think that we need to be here trying to vote on, or vote somebody out, or vote somebody in, or vote a plan in, or vote a plan out, without us all having the facts. We don't have all the facts.
Now, I think there's a secondary issue too about the eminent domain. Is it the fact that the church and other interested parties want to develop those properties themselves, and that this is the issue of eminent domain, and that if the church is behind the opposition to development on that block because the church wants to do it themselves, I think that needs to be brought out. Like, you can't leave things uncertain for people because they don't know what the issues are. If that's the issue of the church, I think the church should step up and say, no, we don't want that developed over there by private developers. The church wants to develop it, and so that's why we have the power of eminent domain, because that's what's hanging out. If that issue is out there, I think the people need to know that. I mean, does the church want those properties over there to develop them as an auxiliary to the church? And if that's the case, then that needs to be discussed.
No, the church does not want to develop.
Okay, those lots over there, we eventually want to put a community center over there.
Then you know
That's what we're looking to do. That's what we're working at now, we're trying to get this.
So you're trying to stop it from the garden and all this other proposal because you want a community center.
Yeah.
Say that! Say that! Put that on the table! I'm playing the game! Okay? That's the issue!
Right, so everybody,
Let's make that the issue!
Wait, can we ask this gentleman to identify himself?
let's take a moment. Say, we get there with the People's Baptist Church. This is our church. So everybody, let's take a moment. This church right here, that's been here
Right.
for 47 years.
What about the other church on the other
Hold
corner?
on. So what we're going to do, let me explain something to you.
Yeah.
That is our project, our church project. And we're working hard now at it. We're trying to get grant writers. We've even got, where we've had a architect come in here and actually pictures and everything about how it should look. Okay?
Don't hold me accountable for those pictures.
Yeah, where the pictures at? Right? There's 150 people in the room, and in order to have a good dialogue, you have to respect everyone in the room, give everybody an opportunity to have a voice, and we should operate with the procedure of raising your hand and being recognized in order to respect everyone in the room. I know you all have strong opinions, and we do want to hear from you, and there's been some valid points brought up, but other people would like to speak as well, and voices be heard, so I would ask you, when you are called on, not to make a speech. Get to your question, get to your statement, and let somebody else have an opportunity, because we don't want to be here until 11 o'clock at night. All right, so and let's establish. This is a small church, and we're very happy that they are facilitating this meeting. We're very thankful. So listen, the next thing I'm going to do is there's some people with their hands up. We're going to number them, and those will be the people that will be recognized. The lady in the blue hat, the gentleman here, and we'll just go that way and here. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Fair enough, everybody?
Yeah.
Thank you.
Great, thank you. I have two really practical questions. The first one, the woman over here was talking about trying to get more specific information about Bark's plan and what the wellness center is going to do, what it's going to look like. I'm wondering, how do we get that information? Can we get that information? Is there a process in place for that? For those of us that want to hear, I mean, I understand that they haven't been forthcoming about financing. Doesn't sound like the redevelopment people have a good sense of it. Do you guys have a contact to get that? So that's the first question. My second question is, if anyone here is qualified to talk more specifically about eminent domain and blight designations, like who are the people that make those calls? Who are they? Are they responsible to us? Does Jamie Blackwell have something to do with it? Does Senator Roebuck have something to do with it? How does that process play out? Who makes those calls? If there's going to be a debate, who gets to weigh in on that debate? If there's going to be a change made, does a new ordinance for blight designation need to be passed through council? If anyone can kind of explain some of the mechanics of that, I'm curious to hear. Thank you.
Good question.
Okay, so Dr. Smallwood is the president of BARC, and they have been in the community for decades. So
Is Dr. Smallwood affiliated with another organization?
I don't, I'm telling you what I know. He's the president, and that's who you would have to direct questions to for proposals from BART.
His office is in the Wellness Center.
Okay.
That's what I sent my letter to him.
So when we look at private entities like BART is, they have the right to come up with any plan they want. That's just the bottom line. They obtain financing, they would then, if there was an eminent domain discussion, which is a hypothetical situation at this point, they would approach a city council person who represents the district, and then that process would start in conjunction with the RDA to move it forward. Is that correct, Martine?
I think that sounds right. And as far as I know, they just don't have a full submission to RDA yet, which is why I don't know if it'll be available to RDA yet.
Right, so that's where we are with that proposal. But remember, any proposal is just a proposal until you start to move forward with the financing and an actual plan. And we could comment on speculative plans. I could say, I want to knock all this down. It's speculative. And so that's what I have for you on that information. I don't remember all the rest of the questions that followed.
Domain is like that.
So as far as we, and I'm no eminent domain expert, I'm not a lawyer, but as far as I understand with the standing city council ordinance, which has no expiration date to it, for 2005, the only way to get that ordinance off the table to have the more stringent laws that now are applicable to eminent domain is to get another council ordinance passed that basically clarifies that.
That's not going to happen.
Okay.
The one national agency does the blight certification. That's Philadelphia City Planning. Does the blight Philadelphia City Planning has the responsibility to do blight certification. You can speak to the planners. And she's staff, but I'm telling you, they have every responsibility to do blight certification. Am I wrong?
So you're right in one sense.
So this is Martine DeCamp, she's with the Philadelphia Planning Commission.
Yeah, she stand up so we can see her.
Okay, so
Martine is not here to represent the city.
And I mean, I haven't even been there that long, so you're absolutely right. But so the planning commission originally does the blight certification, so we do have to do that. That was already done a long time ago, but now the redevelopment authority has to do a more stringent blight certification. Sorry, the redevelopment authority has to do a more stringent blight certification because the laws have changed, the Pennsylvania laws have changed. So they have to go back and reestablish blight. And as far as I know, that hasn't been done because they're like right now looking to see what criteria they have to meet. And the standards, well, the standards are a lot more.
The amendment to it, they raise the standards.
Right.
I mean, it's like, if they want it, boom.
Right.
That's why they raised the standards to the way they did. And you can thank your wonderful mayor, Michael Nutter, for that.
Are you the planning
I am, and I guess what I also want to say is the planning commission does redevelopment area plans, and so that holds whatever development. So, and the planning commission does do redevelopment area plans, and those create a certain criteria that developers have to meet in order to get their proposal to advance. So, and that is something that we're working on, and it's something that we're working on basically from the feedback from the district plan that happens here. And it's just not ready yet, but when it's ready, I mean, it's a public presentation in front of the planning commission, and we'll email you guys so you can know when it's going to be presented at the planning commission.
Would it be fair to say that you're
So-
more like guidelines as
I'm sorry.
RDA is more
The
the
judge
backpack
hears
unit?
that.
Right.
If you have questions for Martine, she'll be here.
I won't be here that much longer.
She'll be here, but she works for the planning department, she represents this district. You can either call, that's all the information we have for this at the moment. You can call the RDA, or PR, excuse me, for the planning department, and maybe you can get more of the answer that would be sufficient for you. We'll go to the gentleman here. Sure.
The gentleman over there, I don't.
Can you stand up so we can see you?
Sure thing. I was wondering if anyone could answer, if anyone's considered how the land bank is going to be either overlapping with the blight certification that we're talking about here, and whether they're going to be conflicting proposals, whether some of these properties, whether they're city-owned or privately owned, could potentially be seized and made into the land bank, or if this is independent in any way, or if they are related in any way. I was just curious.
Speak on that topic.
I can speak just very slightly to that topic. My name is Amy Laura Khan, and I'm an attorney with the Public Interest Law Center of Philadelphia. I do environmental justice work. I also work with Gardens and Farms, and I was also part of the land bank advocacy. The land bank does not actually have the power of eminent domain, so I think it's important to be clear there. It's not part of the powers that the state granted powers. The redevelopment authority will still be the only entity that can do eminent domain in the city of Philadelphia. So the land bank will also not be up and running probably for another year.
But that's why I think it's very pertinent. I mean,
So-
my question is whether this is going to be happening right before the land bank and whether that is potentially any motive for what's happening. I don't know.
I would say that the two things exist probably pretty separately at this point. And if the PRA has its eye on particular land, either that it has plans for particular land that it owns now, or to condemn particular land to put it in PRA's holdings, then it probably won't put that land in the land bank. This is a statement I say with no judgment. It's just that if there are already plans in the works, then that land probably won't be transferred into the land bank. So that's just, that's my 2 cents on that. The other thing I just wanted to say, since I was next on the question list, is I think it would be it's really important to separate these two conversations. I'm really concerned about the blight certification and that happening over and over again in neighborhoods without consent, and not having a way to remove that or to have sufficient public input if it gets recertified. We're seeing this in Eastwick, we're seeing this here, we're seeing this in Mantua. So I feel like that's worth a community meeting. And then I also think with some experts and with some folks that can give some more details, but also some advocacy that needs to happen with our councilwoman, because really she is the core, the key stakeholder in all of this around the blight piece. And then I think it sounds like there are a bunch of different proposals that are also worth talking about together with enough information and maybe some pieces to the district plan that are missing from those proposals. And so I feel like if there's a way to kind of do the blight conversation first and then get into the nitty-gritty of what do we want to see here. And I live at 49 Springfield, so I have an interest too, that's why I'm here. I just think let's kind of think about process in that way.
Okay, so the order is going to the gentleman here, the young lady here, then the gentleman here, and over there. And just for factual disclosure, I have the list of owners of property on the 5,000 block, and it looks like the only city-owned property on the 5,000 block is 50, 43, and 45 Baltimore. Wherever that may be, it's on this side of the street. And then it's an empty lot, and then there are some parcels on the 5100 block, some more 5100 to 06, 5112, 5114. Also, these are just the city-owned ones. 5123, 25, 27, and 29 are all city-owned properties.
A good portion of the southwestern corner of 51st and Baltimore, and then the bamboo lot. This is in the middle of 5100 north side.
Sean.
I think my question is actually kind of asking for some clarification. I know I'm opinionated, but I feel like there's a couple conversations going on here where people are not necessarily clear about which properties we're talking about, which is city-owned. Are you Deacon?
Me?
No.
Good Deacon, yes sir.
Okay. I think he was feeling a little, maybe like that people were upset with him or that there was misunderstanding about I think there are several different lots and there's several different groups of city-owned lots that people are talking about. There are privately owned lots. And so for example, this church's proposal to develop this lot right next door as a community center wasn't what anybody else was talking about, and I think he was concerned that that's what people were talking about. So my question is to ask if we could go over exactly which lots are city-owned, and also the history of who was invited to this meeting, because a lot of folks are kind of saying, well, why aren't these people here? And I think it's a good question, because I know that a lot of people were invited, maybe we can talk about that.
So,
Sure, my name is Sean Dorn, and I live on Catherine Street on this block, and I own a business right next to England Temple, Victim Memorial.
And do you want to develop the other property?
I have enough to make my house, and I put it together, I don't know.
So we just went through the list of the properties which were city-owned.
it's just like, I'm a visual person, so it's easier for me to see it than to hear it spoken. So, the city-owned properties are here on the southwestern corner of Baltimore. Now, there are 2 lots there that are privately owned, but 80% of that is city-owned. Also, these lots here, this is part of this visioning plan, those are city-owned. The bamboo lot here in the center of Baltimore Avenue, 5100 lot, is also city-owned. And then one of the vacant lots here, adjacent to People, is city-owned. And then the lot, isn't the grass lot over here on 5100?
5100 for 5106.
Is also city-owned property. The property in question for this discussion back in November for eminent domain are all of the privately owned parcels that are here on the southeastern corner of 50.
Don't they get taken to the domain, they have no taxes, right? I mean, that's basically, I'm saying, that's one of the, under the news.
No, it is not.
I know, that's what I'm saying. Under one of the parameters of that, they go taxes, and it's in the need of what they call a stress to the community, and they need that property. That's, if you look at the new law, that's one of the ways they come at your neck to get your property. Owe taxes and eminent domain, and they need it, that's one of the mechanisms that they use.
But that's part of the new state
That's
level
what we talk about.
law. But because we have a city ordinance passed in 2000.
The state supersedes the city law. There's your state representative there. He'll tell you, the state supersedes, like the federal government supersedes the state. Just the law, the rules.
Okay, so, Dorothy, it's your turn.
I'll try to talk loud. It seems to me that a lot of different concerns and opinions in the room. It seems to me the one thing we all can agree on is we want information. We want to be clear about what's happening. We don't have that information. And we, at Cedar Park Neighbors, Baltimore Avenue Business Association, can't get it. We've been stoned off. We forgive my language. Calls have been made, emails have been sent, letters have been sent. People have been invited, please come and talk to us. But all we hear is these little rumors. And then we see all the bamboo being cut out of the lot, and we think, oh my God, something's happening. Some more phone calls, more emails, and more stonewalling. People were invited, representatives, all the relevant representatives were invited tonight. We really wish that they had come. We'll have another meeting and invite them again, but I think we can agree. We want some information, we want some clarity, and I think under that lies, we want a part in our own community. We live here. The state representative, he's not directly involved in this, and he absolutely did come. He showed us that respect and that courtesy. Okay, let me finish before my voice runs out. I just had bronchitis, and I'm going to lose in a minute. But in any case, it seems to me that we can agree that we want information, and the reason we want the information is that we live here, and that we care about it, and and that we want the development of this community to at least consider what we believe we need. And when Cedar Park Neighbors did the Baltimore Avenue conversation 2-3 years ago now, that's exactly what we tried to approach. What do people who live here want? What do they feel that they need? What is that all about? And we have it all laid out. We have a whole, and that wasn't everything, but we do have that laid out. Just a very quick reference to the old bar plan. In the old bar plan, and I'm aware of that, there was a school involved in that plan and some other things, but I never saw any mention of student housing. You know, when we did the Baltimore Avenue conversation, we never heard any member of this community say, you know what I really like? I'd like the 5,000 block of Baltimore Avenue to be full of student housing. So we want some more information. That's what we all agree.
Okay, hold on. She's from the senator's office. We're going to let her interject, and then it's
I'm going to introduce myself again. My name is Desiree Jones. I'm from State Senator Anthony Williams' office. And we found out from Councilman Blackwell that this meeting was happening. So she obviously had somewhere else to go. And that's how we were, because I wanted to say, just everybody was invited. Technically, we were not. So, and I live right down the street. So that's number one. Number two, he's actually right about the laws, about the state supersedes the city and so on. But the taxes portion of it is not the only way to take land.
That's what I was trying to
Right,
explain.
but and the city has totally different things about that, so you can't really go into that. You have to talk to them for per property and things like that. Yeah.
I just have a question for you in terms of the state and the city law. When we're talking about blight certification, the law, what was passed in 2005 was blight certification. And then the second blight certification hasn't occurred yet, and there's new requirements from what I hear.
Now,
I'm trying to
I'm not
understand
going to
this
say,
correctly.
I'm not all on top of that. I'm going to start out with saying that, but let me get the blight is from the city, correct?
Correct.
So we had no jurisdiction over that.
So technically,
So unless, the only way we can take over that is if the state creates legislation.
so just to clarify, what is the new state legislation? This is from someone who just doesn't, I don't know this information. What is the new state legislation that we're talking about?
They're talking about, they're two different things. And that's what the young lady in the back saying, they're two different conversations. And you're intertwining things and keep bouncing it back and forth and making it confusing.
So in the city of Philadelphia, eminent domain can occur if property has blight certification, is that correct?
That's what I'm learning from here.
So at this point, but there was a prior blight certification in 2005, which holds until we're recertified as a blighted area. And then once we're recertified as a blighted area, eminent domain can occur.
It can occur anywhere.
Yeah, everybody, they have a plan for this. I like to use examples for things. When they built 95, coming up South Philly, they used that eminent domain to take, to seize land to create. That's an example of how they use it.
So blight certification has no bearing on it.
No.
You have to get blight certification in order
Can't pull eminent domain around certified blight.
All right,
That
so
certification comes from the redevelopment authority.
And who runs the RDS?
I'm sorry?
Who runs the RDS?
Well, we have a newly elected commissioner, his name's Brian Hammer.
Okay, who's his boss?
His boss would be our council people.
we are out of order.
9 times.
So we're going to have to table the discussion on specifics of blight certification in RTA, in eminent domain, until we have a clear, factual and expert to come up here and inform the populace. We can't speculate on the process right now.
That was what Jahal Ali was saying, you don't have
Right.
facts, it's just all speculation.
It's not all speculation, but in this vein, we don't have enough information. We're going to go to the front right here.
All right, so there are 4 parcels at the end of the block that are requested, right? 4 or 5?
5.
So out of the 5, the 2 of the parcels had active investors, active businesses that are being stopped because of potential BART claim. Does BART have to have those parcels? Can BART do that Maybe the next block where the bamboo lot was, maybe the other lots across the street, is that possible? Maybe build up rather than out in the building? What is it about these parcels in particular that they have to have?
That's a very good question. It's a great question. We should have Barb to answer that.
But we can't speculate on private companies and building things. It's not possible. So,
Yeah, I know. I'm the problem with, this is huge problem with eminent domain for the private entities. I can't take one investor and make another investor. And the church is acting as an investor, Bart is acting as an investor. And I'm no Bible scholar, but I'm pretty sure Jesus was the one to take people's land from them.
Is it possible that we can have all the respective people we need to actually get your answers from instead of another meeting? So that we can actually get you, because this is just like going back and forth. So can we actually set another meeting with all the respective city council and everybody else to try this again? The people that can actually answer our questions. And you put out some flyers that everybody can get.
yeah, that sounds great.
Yes.
That's something we're
Okay,
doing.
so can we try that within 4 weeks or so?
We can't give you a hard date because we're just members of an organization.
We don't control their schedule.
Okay, well, I'm just saying, can you try within a month period to
Yes.
revisit this at an organized meeting where they'll be here?
What did you say about the February 24th meeting earlier?
So the councilwoman is coming to our next Cedar Park Neighbors board meeting on the 24th of February.
Is that open or is it?
The board meetings are typically only open to Cedar Park. Sorry, I misspoke. The board meetings are open to all community members, but it is in a very small space, the second floor of Calvary Church.
Given what's going on, maybe you could move it. Yes.
But we could, if there was interest, we could have it in the chapel of Calvary Church.
Okay, there is petition signing, asking for open and transparent process in the city, an entire paragraph. If you're interested in signing, you can do so. It will be circulating around the table. It's on every table and as it is now. So we need this so that we can give this to our elected officials and have them give the information we need in all of the organizations, the RDA, the TRA, that come out. Because they'll know who care to sign.
Yeah, okay. My name's Robin. I live on the 5,000 block of Cedar, and I'm part of the Adult Impact Task Force. I've been writing down the different questions people say they want answers to, so I want to say if you have another question you want answered at a subsequent meeting, like you can come find me, I'll write it down, and I'll bring this back later.
There's cards on the table.
Oh, or that too.
Which is even easier, so if we know what the questions are, that will help us when we go to the councilwoman and say, we need the answers to this. And if you sign a petition, it reinforces that we're here, we don't have information, we need it, we're frustrated, and maybe then we will get that information. So this is the steps we can take tonight. We thought about not having the meeting when they canceled and said they weren't coming. But we felt this is pretty important. Things are moving without us. And to the extent that we are trying to get the information, we're trying to share it with you in as transparent a way as we can. And we've been at this for 10 years trying to find out what's going on with the water plant. And we can't get answers. And so now there's people interested in these lots, the community's ready to move forward, investors are ready to move forward, and we have this ordinance that says there may be the possibility that these properties can be taken for some other purpose. We need to get clarity about it so we can move forward as a neighborhood. So please sign your questions. Anything else we can get back to you on?
Okay, this will be the last question.
Where we talk about next steps, so we have two things going on. There's the ethical question. Seems like everybody's on the same page. Someone, what we would like to understand, and then there's the whole question. has a meeting or Baba has a meeting with the contact the email, and folks who didn't get reached out to when they want to serve a lot, write that down on the papers of the date so that people know that they need to, canvass those boxes and do a better job at trying to reach everybody. So before we all leave, I know everyone's taking off, I have to leave as well, we just kind of close out the meeting in more of an organized fashion.
Sure, and I think you said it well. If you want to be included in the next meeting about either eminent domain or the redevelopment proposals, Cedar Park Neighbors and Baba's individual organizations can talk about doing another forum, and you will be included to sign up. And we will definitely try to. There's sign-up sheets are circulating around. There's opportunities to sign some petitions as well, and we will definitely try to include in the process. If you want to be involved in canvassing, passing out flyers, let us know. We can get you a stack of flyers. You can pass them out on your block. So with that, we're going to close out the meeting, and thank you all for coming. Thank you for your input.
My name is Michael Fitchman. I'm a musician, live around the corner, lived in the neighborhood for a long time. I thought it was an interesting discussion. I thought it was a little unfocused in the sense that there were 4 or 5 different related strains of conversation going on, and there were a lot more questions that were floated out there than there were answers. But I think, if anything, there were a lot of people there, and it's nice for people to sort of get in a room and see who the other people are in that room and hear, what their neighbors are saying and this, that, and the other. But I thought it was productive. Hopefully, people can get together again and start to tie up some of the loose ends from this meeting.
I'm Robin. I live in the neighborhood. I recently got involved with Cedar Park Neighbors that helped organize the meeting, and I feel like we talked about maybe not having this meeting because we didn't have enough information, or we felt like maybe since some of the organizations, like the city departments that we wanted to come can come, that maybe we shouldn't have had it. And I'm feeling a little bit like maybe we should have waited to have it, because I feel like people weren't getting all the information they wanted. But I do feel positive that lots of people came and lots of people care about this, and hopefully when we have follow-up meetings, the pressure of having so many people who want answers will get those city departments to come out and give us more answers.